Birds are in the sky.
What makes a warrior is how they see challenges and adversity as opportunities. Warriors grow, prepare, and prevail through their crucibles. Whether you're active duty, retired, or veteran, whether your battlefield is in entrepreneurship, business, or just climbing life's ladder, you'll gain some of what makes a warrior a warrior. Insight. Lessons of grit, adaptability, and the warrior's spirit will inspire you to smash through anything that stands in the way of your mission. Buckle your seatbelt as fellow U.S. Marines, Emmy Award winner Colonel Riccoh player, and international best-selling author Zachary Green interview fellow warriors and share how they conquered their crucibles.
Yes, sir. We're gonna smoke them.
Outstanding and great to see you. As always, great for our listeners tuning in. This one is be a little different because we'll go with video, but I'm Riccoh player, and my partner in crime with all our missions is Zachary Green, international best-selling author, serial entrepreneur, Marine veteran. I mean, the list can go on and on and on, but we'll stop there and focus on our guest.
My resume is not nearly as important as important as yours. First of all, sir, tell us where we are right now.
We are at the front gate, the old front gate of the second oldest post of the Corps, Parris Island, South Carolina. The mission here is simple. We make Marines.
And what I think is so great about where we're standing, this is where the transformation starts for our young future Marines. They come into this gate just like they've done for probably, what, 60, 70 years, if not longer than that. And this sign's been there pretty much from day one. It's usually at nighttime, everything's blacked out, and all you see is just a light shining on this. And you know, wow, things are about ready to get real, and you're about ready to start your transformation. So today we're going to talk about one of those warriors that has really transformed and overcome some pretty incredible hardship. And that is my Roger Bacon Spartan former classmate. It was only what, Tim, was that only about 15, 20 years ago, I think?
I wish, Zach. Yeah, I wish it would plus or minus 15.
All right. So we are on today with Tim Rohling from Rohling Growth Advisors. And Tim, why don't you introduce yourself and give us a little bit of your background?
Yeah, gentlemen, it's a pleasure and an honor to be here with that background. It's quite humbling. So thank you for your service and all that you've been through and what you've done. So for me, you know, my background outside of Roger Bacon, I went from there to engineering school at the University of Cincinnati. Enjoyed it. Had a fantastic experience there. Went to work in the real world. Did design engineering for a few years. I went back to night school to get my MBA, again, locally here at Xavier University, and worked in the construction and engineering world for about 15 years, and decided that I had a passion for sales and marketing, which is fundamentally different than engineering, right? So how do you make that transition from kind of the technical mindset to the people-oriented and data metric side of marketing? Joined a family business here in town, and we grew that very successfully for about 12 years. Then I made the choice to separate from that business and start my own business here, which you see as Rohling Growth Advisors, focused on outsourced chief growth officer work, because there's such a gap in the small to mid-size marketplace for leadership that incorporates really the human aspects of leadership and the business science, I call it, where you blend the data, the metrics, the process with the compassion and empathy and the human aspects that we need on a day-to-day basis to really have our organization succeed. So, you know, as part of that journey, you know, as Zach said, I had a few challenges. I developed a spine issue about 15 years ago, and I've endured about five spine surgeries, my most recent 2 weeks ago. And when you do that, you know, when you go through that kind of challenge and deal with chronic pain on a day-to-day basis, it changes you. And that was another impetus for me to start this organization. You know, one, it was flexibility for me, right? I needed therapy. I needed to have these surgeries. And it's tough to do that when you're in a full-time position. So start your organization and then go help others along the way in terms of building their organization. And my wife and I also started a Spark grant through the Mayfield Foundation here in Cincinnati to help fund research for those with spine disorders. Because when you suffer through a chronic condition, your family suffers as well. And I think that that is one of the biggest challenges along the way as a human being, as a person, to not be able to do things that you used to and watch your family pick up the pieces and scraps, if you will. And that's hard to take as a human being. So that's part of the journey. You know, it's gone well. But yeah, I'd love to talk a little bit more about the kind of the grind mentality that helps you fight through and where that comes from.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Tim, once again, thank you for coming on the show with us today. Some of the things you covered, you talk about some of your challenges, and we'll dive into those later. But let's start by, you know, I looked at your podcast. What inspired you to do your podcast?
Yeah, so one, it was marketing for the business, right? It's a way to reach out and spread the word, but more important than that, it was really to help other organizations get a feel for what growth means. Because often when we say growth in business, we think revenue, we think profit, but it's bigger than that. You know, it's helping your people become the people that they want to be, reach the goals that they want to attain, and it's all those things combined. And it's not just, you know, focusing on the sales side. It's human resources, it's finance, it's accounting, it's all those pieces coming together, and we forget about that. You know, the purpose of a business is to find a customer, and if you do that well, you have the opportunity to earn a profit. And the only way to do that is to bring all those pieces together. So that's fundamentally what the Growth Process podcast is about: to go out, find people with different backgrounds, different experiences, and share that with other business leaders.
Okay.
So Tim, one of the things we talk about here on the Warrior's Voice, and it's in the book, is about the warrior cycle. So it starts with somebody having hardship and developing, as the colonel calls it, rhino skin, as that iron sharpens iron and you're getting stronger and stronger. And then eventually you have a crucible. And the crucible is that crisis in your life that everything you've done up to that point is not enough. This could be a death of a family member. It could be a divorce. It could be a drug or alcohol problem. It could be, in your case, a physical issue. And what we find is when you're in that crucible, at the bottom of the crucible is the abyss. That is just giving up. That is suicide. That is, you know, spending too much time in the bottle or with those toxic relationships. And you have to honor the abyss and recognize it, that it's a powerful force, but you want to stay away from it. The great philosopher Nietzsche said, if you stare long enough into the abyss, eventually the abyss will stare back and consume you. To get through the abyss, two things need to happen. Number one, you have to transform and change. And number two, you have to conquer what got you there. And then once you make it through that abyss, you actually are much stronger. With that in mind, kind of take us through this spinal issue and how that, you know, sounds like your crucible, and what you learned and how you grew from it, and how we can honor that horrible process that you've been through and honor it as a tool that's helping make you stronger and more grateful.
Yeah, I think you're right on, Zach. My crucible has definitely been the spine issues that I've endured, but I see it as that double-edged sword. I see it as both a blessing and a curse, because it does change you. It forces you to do things different, which is often the upside, but on the same side, you're dealing with the pain, which isn't a lot of fun on a day-to-day basis. So you have to look at it both ways as a tool that keeps you sharp day to day, because you have to do things differently. You have to improve upon your skills. You know, for me, the turning point was, you know, shortly after apparently it's a condition I've had since birth, but it didn't dawn on me that I had it until my early 30s. I was a competitive tennis player and went down on a court, and that kind of started the journey. Had the first surgery, and then it kind of snowballed from there. Apparently my spinal canal is more narrow than it should be. So any degenerative changes that all of us have over time are more compound and more profound in me. So that requires more surgeries over time. So it was, hey, I can't do the things that I used to do, which, you know, when you suffer with a physical ailment, you can't ignore the mental aspects of that. So for me, you know, and I haven't really talked about this publicly, but there's a depression side that comes with that. There's anxiety. There's all these other fears that you have to deal with, and the feeling of being a lesser human being that you have to overcome and see. And what really drove me and helped me through that, one was my family. My wife has been rock solid. She's a strong person. My three children, Ellie, Blake, and Morgan, and both my parents and my in-laws have been fantastic. So I'm fortunate to have that support system that some people don't have. But then it's my work too, right? I love my work. I'm passionate about what I do. And that keeps me active on a day-to-day basis to really grow and drive day to day. So, the family, I would say, is what pulled me out of it. The work is what keeps me focused, because you need that daily focus and that daily drive to move forward. And I'm a swimmer, so I try to stay physically active where I can. That helps tremendously with pain and stretching and yoga and all those things combined with the medical team. Really what driven me to pull out of the abyss, if you will, because I've been there for sure. I mean, there's definitely days where it's just like, man, I don't know, is this worth it? But the answer is always yes. As long as you can keep, I think the key to those out there that are suffering from chronic pain is to stay active as you possibly can. Keep your mind busy, keep moving, do the things that you can do, and find that support network, because it's just so critical.
Mind, body, and spirit, sir. We've heard that a couple times.
Absolutely. And Tim, you talk about your support network and your family, and in your podcast, you talked about.
I'm sorry, Riccoh, you're cutting out there.
Oh, I'll say it again. You talked about, getting through your crucible. You talked about the importance of your family and that support network. So learning those lessons and translating those to the business side. In your podcast, you talk about coaching up or coaching out. Can you unpack that a little bit, please?
Yeah, so coaching up businesses, I think on the business side, there's a small to mid-size specifically. There's an occurrence that happens, and I just call it complacency. A lot of organizations, they're successful, they are where they are, they've done great things, and then we kind of flatline. We forget that we have to maintain that entrepreneurial spirit, which also includes process and structure that the entrepreneurial mind doesn't necessarily like or care for. It's just kind of the odds of business. So the coaching up aspect is helping organizations combat complacency. And I could have made the choice with my back and other things to be complacent and not do the work that I'm doing. But the choice is to try to be better every day. Okay, let's get up, let's do these things. I'm not driving for perfection. I think that's a myth. It's the drive for excellence, to just take a little step every day to get a little bit better, to feel a little bit better, to do a little bit better in my business, and I learn every day. I make mistakes, and that's how you grow. But on the business side, it's helping companies combat complacency to get over the hump, to help them reach a new level that they haven't seen yet. And that's really where it is.
Great. Thank you.
That's deep. That's deep. Well, Tim, tell us a little bit about your company and how people can get a hold of you.
Sure. The company is Rohling Growth Advisors, and my tagline I call future-proof your organization, which is really helping to accelerate sales and increase revenue. The future-proofing really speaks to combating the complacency we just talked about. At a high level, it's outsourced chief growth officer services that helps from a project management perspective, bring the different pieces together, or on a project-based experience, work as that outsourced sales manager, marketing and customer service as well. To reach me, the best way is website, Rohling, ROHLING growth, GROWTH.com, rohlinggrowth.com, or cell phone is 513-509-0044.
Perfect. All right. Well, Tim, we appreciate your time. Ladies and gentlemen, I got to tell you, Tim is somebody I've always looked up to in high school. Just an amazing warrior, what he's been able to accomplish. We haven't touched base in, gosh, probably 2 decades. And when he shared with me his trials and tribulations, what a warrior he is by growing through those, was very inspirational. And I know a lot of our listeners, we have a wide mix of warriors from all different walks of life, but a lot of those warriors are people starting businesses, and having someone like Tim on your team is absolutely crucial, because you can't do it on your own. You've got to partner up and find people, and Tim is a great resource to help and share with that growth.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Zach. It's a pleasure, and let's keep in touch.
Absolutely. Before we get to our dedication, Colonel, is there any last questions you've got, or any last words of encouragement?
No, Tim, it was, again, great having you on the show. It's inspired, not an entrepreneur, but that growth mindset is critical for any endeavor. And I think the trials, tribulations, the crucible that you've been through, and the living example you provide is, I think, iron sharpening iron for any entrepreneurs out there who are thinking about going into the waters of entrepreneurship. So It's great that, and we appreciate you coming on the show. And just I encourage folks to tune into your podcast. They might be able to learn something.
Thank you, Colonel. It's been a pleasure, and thank both of you for your work.
Thank you. So one of our traditions here, Tim, is that we like to dedicate each episode to a warrior. And the warrior I picked today was threefold. Number one being that it is Women's History Month. We wanted to find a female warrior. Number two, we always like to try to honor somebody from our military. And number three, you inspired me with hearing how you've been able to grow from your injuries and your problems. I figured we had to honor a doctor. So today's podcast, we're going to honor Dr. Mary Edward Walker. Dr. Walker was actually a member of the Union Army back during the Civil War. She was a suffragist, and she also was a prisoner of war. But what's so impressive, she's the only female in the history of our military to earn the Medal of Honor. And she grew up in the upstate New York area. She was raised by very progressive parents that taught her to question everything, which is one of my big fans of always questioning things and understanding why. And if it's not the smart thing to do, why do we keep doing something like that? She graduated from Syracuse Medical College back in 1855, started her practice in Rome, New York, and then as the Civil War started to heat up, she traveled to Washington to join the Union forces, and she was actually denied the ability to join the Union forces because she was a female. So what she ended up doing is served as an unpaid volunteer surgeon at the U.S. Patent Office and Hospital in Washington, D.C. And then in 1862, she became a field service. And throughout the war, she wore men's clothing, arguing that made her job easier, that people wouldn't talk to her. Well, eventually she was captured by the Confederates, served as a member, as a POW, and eventually in 1865, President Andrew Johnson signed a bill awarding her the Medal of Honor for her meritorious service. Now, it's interesting because back in 1916, 1917, they stripped the Medal of Honor away from her, saying that women shouldn't be able to have that. Well, thank goodness back in 1977, that Medal of Honor was reinstated. So to all of our female warriors out there in honor of Women's History Month, we say, Semper Fidelis.
Thank you for listening to The Warrior's Voice. If you haven't, please subscribe to this show and be the first to hear new episodes with fellow U.S. Marines Riccoh Player and Zachary Green. You can also visit www.warrior-framework.com to learn more about how you and or your business can use the Warrior Framework to conquer personal and professional crucibles.